Welcome to Barnyard Language, honest talk about running farms and raising families. We are Katie and Arlene, an Iowa sheep farmer and an Ontario dairy farmer, with 6 kids, 2 husbands, and a whole lot of chaos between us.
While this is a podcast for farm families, sometimes our content isn't for the whole family. So kick off your boots, reheat your coffee, and join us for some Barnyard Language.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Barnyard Language. Now, this is a test for people to see if anyone is actually paying as much attention to the podcast as we are, because we made a change, and I didn't actually post on social media about it, so until you're listening now, you maybe didn't even notice. But we are going to start releasing every other week instead of every week, because it's just a lot. And it's okay to make changes. And we still really enjoy doing the podcast and are talking to some amazing people. But we don't need to do that every week and burn ourselves out in order to achieve our goal of still connecting with cool people and hanging out with you guys, our listeners. So do not worry. We're still putting out the podcast, but we're just giving you a little bit more time to listen to it. And on that note of listening to the podcast, while you're at it, if you're listening to the podcast, you're probably listening maybe in a podcast app or player of some kind. While you're there, can you submit a review for us and give us 5 stars? If you want to give us less than that, just like skip that step. But yeah, if you want to leave us a review or give us a rating, then that would be super helpful. Anything else you want to say on that note, Katie, or just tell us what's going on in Iowa?
I feel like I want to encourage those people who never give 5 stars to give us the 4 stars, but then you get those people who are like literally nothing would be enough for them to give you 5 stars.
It's only 5 stars though.
You could give them a kidney and they still wouldn't give you 5 stars.
It doesn't take anything to give us 5 stars, really.
I mean, really, maybe just break out of your mold. Try giving us 5 stars. Doesn't feel right, just close the page and pretend you didn't do it. So Arlene's right. Give us 5 stars, even if you never do.
Yeah, you could let the podcast keep playing so that we think that you listen to it all the way through. So what is happening on your farm with your family? What is the news from your place?
Well, on Friday, my kids were helpful on the farm. And not just quote unquote helping, like when they're toddlers and you give them a little feed scoop and they fill half of one gallon pail in the time it takes you to finish feeding the cows. But we went out to put in fence posts so that the cows can go out and graze the corn stalks. And the kids were actually useful and not fighting. And it was really nice.
That's a milestone to be excited about, for sure.
Yeah. I'm sure it'll be the last time it happens for quite a while, but I got pictures. I got video even to prove that one time in 2025 they were helpful. I mean, they're helpful for a lot of things, but this is the first time they've really actually helped in farming in a truly helpful way. I mean, the girl child will be 9 in a few weeks, and our son is 7.5. So we're getting to that age. Also, my son is making a solid play for learning to drive the tractor, but only my tractor, not Daddy's tractors.
Okay. Which one is yours? I was at your place once, and there are a lot of tractors.
There's 2 tractors on this farm that are not orange. One of them is mine. One of them is my husband's dirty little secret. I have an 8N Ford that my husband bought me as a gift many years ago, because we do bring the romance here. Other than that, harvest is done. My kids have been happily pulling the cover crop turnips and bringing them to Grandpa and Grandma because they like to roast them, I suppose, and eat them. We brought our new bull home on Saturday. His name is Mike Mulligan, for any of you steam shovel aficionados out there. And he will get to go out with the girls in a few weeks. They're very interested in him. He's in quarantine in the barn, and yesterday there was a whole row of heifers just lined up along the fence.
Introducing themselves.
Yeah, batting their cow eyelashes and, things of that nature. Hunting season is in full swing. I think it's still archery season. The neighbors have taken a couple nice big bucks off our place, which is good.
Does your family hunt at all? Or it's more a you other people use our property and we are happy that they're happy situation?
Other people use our property, and it really is the best possible way to know about any trespassers or property damage back in the woods or anything. About a third of our property is timber, and a third of it is prairie grass for conservation reserves. So between the pheasant hunters and the deer hunters, we get eyes on the whole property, which is nice because I hear about it real quick if there's a vehicle that doesn't belong here or something else of that nature. There's some hunters who unfortunately are not as respectful of things that aren't theirs and whether they belong on property that is not theirs where they do not have permission.
That is true.
Yeah, it's good to know about it. How are things at your place, Arlene?
So it was Royal Week for the non-Canadians in the audience. The Royal Winter Fair is for some people. We are showing dairy showing family. So for us, it's kind of the end of the season and also reunion time with a lot of people that we went to school with or know through the industry. We, end up seeing people from other commodity groups too. We have friends who show sheep and friends who show beef cows. And so everybody's kind of all in the same place at the same time. As you might be able to hear from my voice, everyone also gets sick when you are there. And it's right in Toronto. So it's also our annual figuring out how to get downtown, how to use public transportation, the logistics of getting animals into the city, and how to find accommodations that don't cost $1 million for a week for a bunch of people to be in the city too. But I've heard a few times best royal ever. We had a really successful week overall, and success in terms of both accomplishments in the ring and, the relationships and community building type stuff. So beginning of the week started out with our 4-H kids. So we had a team of 8 kids and a herdsperson in the TD Classic, which is like the Eastern Canadian final for the dairy 4-H kids. So it's all across Ontario, Quebec, and the Maritime provinces. So Nova Scotia, New Brunswick, and PEI all send teams. So there's like 300 and some kids, and our little team did really well. We had a lot of kids who made the finals, which is huge. In particular, our daughter came 4th overall in senior showmanship, which is a really big accomplishment for her and her calf Birkin bag. And our kids were 3rd team out of all of those teams, and also won the tie-up competition, which had been one of their goals for the last couple of years. So that was very exciting for them. So their tie-up has to look neat, but they also have to interact well with the public and judges and keep all the stuff behind the tie-up looking neat and tidy too, where they keep all their supplies and, show whites and food and all that kind of stuff. So they did a really good job all around, and also seemed to really enjoy being together, which is one of the main accomplishments, I think, that everyone's still generally happy and still like each other by the end of a few days of very little sleep and high stress.
Did Hugh find somewhere to put his award? Was your daughter able to clear a little corner off for him to?
Yeah, so he actually won an award that was presented at the TD Classic, but wasn't part of the show necessarily. There was a man in the Canadian dairy industry, a veterinarian who passed away a few years ago, and his family established an award in his honor. And so it's, like a leadership humanitarian type award. And my husband, Hugh, was the recipient this year. So that was a huge honor. So we did actually know about it a couple of weeks ago so that they could make sure that he was going to be there, so that that's a place where they could present it. But yeah, so that was pretty special. We got to meet the late Dr. Tim Henshaw's wife and son and granddaughter. And yeah, so my husband was presented with that award during the show. So that was a big deal. And then we had a day off in the middle. My husband and I actually both came back from Toronto. It's about a 4-ish. Well, on the way there, actually, there was a major snowstorm. So it took us many, many hours to get there. On the way back, it was a little quicker. Came home for a day, milked cows, regrouped, did some laundry, and then headed back up again. And then the open dairy show was the next couple of days. Holstein heifers one day, red and whites that same day, dairy Holstein cows the next day, and then jerseys the next day after that. So we had a variety of animals in rings, and our red and white heifer, who we actually sold about a month ago but still has our name on it for now, she was the grand champion junior in the National Red and White Show, so that was very exciting. And then she was actually second in her class in the Black and White Holstein Show. So because she's a Holstein, she can compete in both. So she had double time in the ring, so that was very exciting because that was not something we thought was well. I mean, we were optimistic, but it's a pretty big stage, and that was very exciting. And so then she actually ended up being able to go in the ring for Supreme, where all the dairy breeds compete against each other on the last day. So she didn't win there, but still very exciting. And our jerseys did relatively well. They weren't at the front of the pack, but they were cute. They're really big classes of Jersey heifers, so they did all right. And yeah, I think that's kind of the summary of the Royal. There was lots of talking, lots of hanging out with people, a little bit of shopping and taste testing. There's lots of food vendors and local food, local farms type booths. So we got to do a lot of testing of different products and got to see some past podcast guests. Oh yeah, I got to see the Cows Come Home girls do a presentation. I got to see Nicole from Ag Pro Workwear, who we've had on before, and yeah, I think I'll stop there because people who weren't there aren't gonna really care all that much about what I'm talking about. But anyway, it was a fun week for us, and now we recover from the fact that we had to spend an entire week with a lot of people when we're used to seeing very few people.
It's amazing how much it takes out of you just to see that many humans, and also I'm sure the traffic and logistics of Toronto is probably a bit different than the traffic and logistics of your normal day-to-day situation, especially when you've got cows and how many other people's children and, white pants.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, so after the snowstorm trip on the way in, the second part of the week, I ended up booking the train because I was like, I don't want to, I don't want to do it again, and it probably would have been fine, but you never know. So, and thankfully our Airbnb was walking distance, so that was nice that once you parked, or once you got there, you could just kind of be close and not have to worry too much about how you're going to get back and forth.
Yeah, I do find, when I was in my 20s, I could drive like 12 hours, no problem. And now anything much more than 3 or 4 is just, it's tiring. And I remember as a younger person in my, grown-ups being like, "I'm just tired." I'd be like, "You didn't do anything." And now I'm like, "Oh yeah, no, it's work." And especially if you're driving somewhere you're less familiar with and there's, I don't know, a snowstorm, things like that, it really does, you know. It's nice to let somebody else do the driving, as it were.
Yes, that's right. And the train especially, you've got so much room. You can just relax and have them bring you snacks. It's all good.
That's really ideal. If you have some leg room and snacks, that's really, yeah, living your best life right there.
That's right. All right. Well, why don't we introduce our guest for this week?
All right, sounds good.
So today we are excited to be talking to Gemma Hodge, who is joining us from Scotland. And since she's a listener, we don't have to explain nearly as much, but I will ask our usual questions. So tell us, what are you growing?
So I'm growing farming wise. We have about 700 sheep that we lamb at home. We have about 100 beef cows. I'm growing 3 young children. They're 7, 4, and 3, 2 girls and a boy. I'm also growing, I suppose, my dog grooming business, and I show dogs. That's my personal thing. And I'm also growing our farming YouTube channel, which is mainly why I'm putting myself out there into these sort of situations online to try and push that audience a wee bit. So yeah, Hodge Farm Life 5. I started it in March at lambing time and really enjoying it and starting to sort of get somewhere with it. So just trying to push the boundaries and push myself, and yeah, it's scary putting yourself out there in any such situations, but so that's what I'm growing.
Thank you. Okay, so we are a farming audience, obviously. So people want to know what kinds of sheep, what kinds of cows, and of course, what kind of dogs we're talking about. I think we know that they're human children, so we probably don't need too many more details on that.
So sheep wise, we have Suffolks, Texels, a breed Blue Domain, which is quite new to us, but we're quite liking crossing that with the Texels and the Suffolks. And in terms of cows, it's Shorthorns and Sementals. And we have beef Shorthorn bulls and Semental bulls as well. And we have a Solaire's bull as well for the heifers. And he's a nice big guy. But yeah, so that's animal wise. Dog wise, I've got a standard. I've got a standard poodle. And we have a dachshund, and we have our collies, our working dogs, and one just had puppies yesterday. So that I'm growing them too. Actually, well, I'm not officially, but so we've got 3 wee puppies now. So that's good.
So obviously, climates are different all over the place. And while some of us have probably been to Scotland, we haven't farmed there. So what does feeding all of that livestock look like? Is there pasture? Are you growing crops as well? Are you buying in crops? How does that work on your farm?
We don't grow any crops here. The farmer before we had this farm did, but we put it all back to grass just because we felt we needed that um more, and it is probably in the long term probably going to be cheaper to buy it in than actually grow it. So we have 400 acres, and it's 400 acres of grass, give or take a wee bit of woodland here and there, but that's mainly what it is. And they're in cows are just most of the heifers are all in, all the calves are in. It's just the cows with that are calving just now that are still outside, and they'll come in probably next week, with it being the weather's just starting to get colder and starting to turn. So, and then they'll be getting fed silage that we've grown on the farm and done during the year, and different feeds to sort of supplement them.
So we're recording middle of October. There might be some dumb questions in here if other Scottish people are listening, but I'm going to ask them anyway. Do the sheep come in for the winter months as well, or can they stay out for more of the year, or how do the sheep fare on grass?
No, they're out. They're out pretty much. Like I've seen us bringing sheep in January for lambing if the weather's been really bad, like triplets and things like that, just to look after them a bit better. But I think last year was it's kind of last year was such a good year. You just remember and you smile about it when you're talking about it, because the sheep didn't come in, I don't think, until just before they started lambing, which was great because it's just so much less labour, like intensive. If you can keep them all out, and shed wise, we've got to move things around for the sheep coming in. So the sheep will come in for lambing generally beginning of March. They start lambing on the 15th of March. So triplets maybe come in February, weather dependent. January, weather dependent. Like I say, I was bringing them in January, but George will want to keep them out for as long as possible and just start feeding them outside once they get scanned. So we know we'll then put them into groups and feed them accordingly to what they've been scanned in. But yeah, I'm trying to think. We've got the pet lambs actually have just went outside. I feel quite sorry for them because we've just got about 6 pet lambs left, and he's just banged them out with the rest of the store lamb, with the rest of the lambs that will be going. So yeah, they keep coming out the field actually, and I keep having to chase them back in because they're like, "Let me back in."
It's funny when you have some that have been raised a little differently, right? Where, like I said, it's middle of October and it's the end of the show season for some of our show animals. So they've had to go back in with the general population and they're looking around like, where is my custom feed? And no one is paying attention to me or washing me every day. I don't understand what's going on here. I'm not a regular. No.
I know, it's they get so used to a different a different way, and it's but no, it's yeah, they keep getting out, but I'll keep putting them back in. Hopefully, there's one that I really really have got quite an attachment to, and I'm just so wanting George to keep. And I don't normally get attached to pet lambs because usually they die, and it's like, oh, if you get attached to one, then it goes and drops dead. And but there's one that I really don't want him to send, and she still toddles up to me in the field and stuff, and because I don't know. I raise all the pet lambs on a machine. So they all go onto like this I can't remember the actual name of it, but a big machine that makes the milk up, and so you don't really need to be that hands on with them, you know. And but this one had really bad orf, so I decided to try and bottle it just to keep the orf at bay in the other pens, and then she just stayed in the bottle, and I think that's when you get attached to them, when you start like, you know, having the bottle connection.
Thanks that you're their mom, so.
I know, Gemma, we put our rams in on Sunday. We lay them, sounds like about exactly the same time you do. And it's always such a surprise when you hear somebody say, "Oh, I remember last year," and then it doesn't end with them like on the floor crying because of something horrible that happened. It's always such a nice surprise when you say, "Oh, I remember this other thing," and it was good, and not like a horrible disaster that is stuck in your memory. It's nice to hear.
Yeah, I've got quite a few horrible disasters from lambing time that will always stick in my memory. But last year I just remember, oh, it's just the weather just makes or breaks it for Scotland. Like I don't know about other, like, sort of, I suppose other countries, but I always feel other countries are a bit more like structured with weather. Like you kind of know when the seasons are, whereas Scotland you can have like snow in June. Like it can be you can have a heat wave, you can be out lambing at the start of March in shorts, and then going into April you're wearing snow boots. It's like it's crazy. But last year, yeah, just because having the kids and trying to get them out in the cold and the rain, it's just so hard. But when it's sunshine, they want to go out and they want to help, and it just makes life easier.
Well, and I feel like with livestock pretty consistently, it being cold is not as bad for them as it being damp. And I feel like
Yeah.
my impression of Scotland and the UK generally is that it's fairly wet, which seems more challenging than, March in Iowa can be very kind of warm and wet, or it can be cold and dry, which is a lot nicer. It can be 20 degrees colder and better for lambing if it's not soggy.
Not that dampness and in the walls, and just, yeah, because even my pet lambs did better last year just because there was not as much dampness in the air.
So I know too, obviously, for our listeners, that podcasts are not a visual medium, which sometimes is disappointing. You could always, subscribe to Patreon if you want to see what's going on here. But Gemma, I have to say, and I mean this in the most positive and delightful way, you have a real, like, Renee Zellweger as Bridget Jones vibe. And I love it. And I am here for it.
That's funny. That's my dad used to always say that.
Well, I'm glad we agree.
Oh yeah, I suppose it's a good thing. I'll take it as a compliment.
Yeah. I mean, she's won a lot of awards and Oscars and things, so I feel like that's all right.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, and I loved the Bridget Jones movies. They were my big I think that actually came out before I was met George. So I probably thought I was going to be like Bridget Jones.
So, Gemma, did you grow up in an ag background, or is this sort of a newer thing for you?
So when I was growing up, I always was really into my horses and things like that. So but we lived in the town, right in the heart of maybe Glasgow, and I was just always obsessed with like being outside. And when I fell into the horses, that was kind of a natural thing, like just that getting to meet people from the countryside sort of thing. And my dad saw that, and he thought it would be a better life for us moving to the countryside. So and in that time when we moved, my mum and dad got more for their house in Glasgow than they bought like a small holding for cheaper, because they weren't as popular then. People it just seemed to be the case. Where we lived was a very like sort of affluent area, and houses sold so well. So yes, we bought a wee small holding about just 20-30 minutes from where we lived, and then, yeah, just got like sort of mum and dad got friendly with like the neighbouring farmers, and I was out helping them. And, once I got into tractors, and I totally found my sort of calling. You know what I mean? Like I'd moved schools to a more sort of a more country school, so there was different people there. Because in Glasgow, I felt so. I just hadn't. I remember just being. I was bullied throughout all my sort of life just for not wanting to sort of be like everyone else.
Where's the iPad?
I have no idea.
Yeah, that last.
Charging in the kitchen.
Aye.
I have no idea what the iPad is, so she's going to be back in 2 minutes to ask what it is again. But yeah, so we were. Where was I? Oh yeah, yeah. So I just never really got on at school, and I remember like I was reading a country magazine on a school trip once, and I remember this girl being like, asking, "Has anyone got a magazine?" Oh,
I can't find it in the kitchen.
okay. You've really got to. I've got to speak to these ladies. Okay, it's not fair. I'll be going after this. They're just trying to find reasons to come in now because like they enjoy being like on they'll think, oh, we're on TV. But so yeah, so I just and I remember this girl saying, "Oh, Gemma's got a magazine," and they got my magazine and they were like, "Oh my god, this is like, what is she reading?" And then I was sort of picked on for ages after that for having this like horsey country magazine, reading it. And I think just when I expressed like that, and because I was into my horses, everyone always used to say I would smell and things. So just I found my calling in the countryside and felt happier there. Just even myself, like I felt happier. Like I'm one of 6 children, but I was always the one that was probably just a bit more quiet and just sort of watched more than got involved, if you know what I mean. So and then once I moved to the countryside, I got involved in young farmers, and that was it really. Such a social life opened for me with that, and people wanted to talk to me. They wanted to be my friend, which I found so strange that they wanted to talk to me about the countryside. Just like, and I found a bit of just something to grab onto, and sort of my best friends probably, or the ones that you see people obviously in young farmers. Just do they have young farmers in Canada and America and all that? Yeah.
So I actually went on a young farmers exchange. So I was in a youth farming organization and went to that's how we know actually a few of the same people, I think, because I went on a young farmers exchange to the UK and spent 3 months. But young farmers is definitely a much more vibrant and active organization in the UK than it is where I am. I think just because people are closer together and there's a bigger population of, of rural and farming people that are kind of, don't have to travel as far to see each other where, we might have to drive an hour to a meeting where, in Scotland, that's like you're going on a day trip. It's just an evening for us.
Yeah, oh, you're totally right. Yeah, it is much more spaced out. But here, yeah, there's so many, so much such a social side of it, and it's a great organisation. So, and then I met George, and then, God, I just can't really remember life without that stress of having George in it. But yeah.
So you mentioned already that the farm that you're on, someone else owned before. So obviously that means it's not, a generational farm that has been passed along. Or so what has the farm that you currently live on, or the ground that you're working with? How did you end up in that place? And what were some of the kind of the steps along the way from being aspiring farmers, or maybe farming? I'm not sure if George was farming with parents or anything like that. So kind of what's the history of the farm side?
I was trying to stay in a straight road with this and not kind of like jump off. But so we, George's family had a farm, and it was a 200-acre farm, and it was so half the size of what we have now. And George's dad had a haulage company, so that was his sort of thing, and the farm was sort of more the sort of backup sort of thing, and his mum had a lot to do with that. And George, when he came, George used to race quad bikes, like motorbikes, in America, and then he broke his knee and came home. I think he was 19, and that was when he stayed at home and started farming, and just totally got the bug for it. And
wanted to sort of progress. So that was over about, say, 10 years or so. Like he just kind of, and we rented ground somewhere else to try, to keep numbers up. But once he got it in his head that he needed somewhere bigger would be better and more profitable and be able to sort of stand on its own 2 feet. The other farm with 200 acres, it needed an extra income to keep it in a way. We actually did bed and breakfast as well, and in the other farm, which was crazy because I had my own business as well, and I look back and I think of all the things that we did how many like balls I juggled. It was just insane. And but what really helped us with the old farm and the bed and breakfast was that locally to that they were building stacks of windmills. And we had, I think it was 14 Romanian workmen living with us for about a year and a half. And I don't know if it's right to call them this, but we called them the rom-roms. And but what I learned from these guys, they're from Italy and Romania, and at different times they would bring their wives and their kids over, and we'd have them all in the. It was such a big house that we kind of were able to separate the house into, like, we had sort of a couple of rooms, and then we made a sort of makeshift kitchen, and they had the other side of the house. But anyway, so that's what we did to sort of diversify in our old farm. But we really wanted to George just wanted to farm. Like, he just wanted to be a farmer. I mean, he loved the B&B and the chat with all that, because farming's quite a lonely job. So for me at the time, I had a beauty salon, so that was I was able to talk all day, and I was totally fine. Whereas George, he quite liked it when the B&B came, because you get a bit of chat with them about the farm, but yeah, so that helped us a long way financially as well, in sort of paying for a little bit anyway, and what we had to invest into buying the new farm. So we bought the farm off his parents, we think it was 2014, and then we sold it. The plan was probably always going to be to sell it, and they were aware of that was going to happen, because we couldn't progress in the farm we had. We did look around that area in the hope that we could have got, but all the other farms were owned by either George's family, like other family, or estates, which we approached but never got anywhere. But I just think what's for you won't go by you, because we'd bid on a few farms, and we were wee fish, like, in this big pool of we're in our late 20s. We had good business plans, which obviously got us where we are, but it was, we were never going to be able to beat the big people with the big money or whatever. So when we bid on a farm somewhere, we never got it, and George was really down about it. I probably didn't have my heart set in that farm. We didn't get, because I remember just being a bit like, thank God, like, I'm quite glad. I don't think that's right for us. I felt it was too similar to the farm that we had in terms of land. I had more land, but just in terms of, I don't know, it was just too samey. And when you're putting that much money, and it's so much money out there, you want to just get the best that you can get. And anyway, George was a bit down, and we ended up putting an advert. We asked the solicitors that we were dealing with, and thought it was a good idea to put an advert into the Scottish Farmer, so which is like a farming magazine here, comes out every week, like people get it every week, and that's how we got this farm. It's
What did you say? What was your ad? Was it
well, the solicitors put it in because we couldn't put our names in, because well, I suppose people would have known we were looking, because we'd looked at like local farms, so people knew that we were looking for somewhere. But I don't think anyone ever really thought we'd actually get anywhere. You know what I mean? Like, I think they thought that these guys are just all like
believe in your dreams as much as you did?
yeah. But we did, and when we drove in to our farm, Lesterlin, which the minute, because I remember we were driving up to it, and George said to me, "It's got a big road end. Like, I don't think you're going to like it." And I was like, because our other farm didn't have a road end; it was like right on the road. And I'm like, nah, I think I like I think I like it. Anyway, when we drove in, my heart just went, "This is it. This I want to live here." Like, and because, and as I was driving in, all I could think about is, I'm going to make these people want to sell me this farm so badly. And my mission was like, I don't think if anyone was to listen to this that he would mind me saying it, but like I just knew it. And then we left, George's like, "What do you think?" And I said, "Oh, this is it. Like, this is it wasn't, I don't know if it was nearer where I was from as well. So just in terms of like, I think in future family and all that. And like I say, I had a business in the area where I was brought up, so it was just I just knew it was gonna be doable for me. And so yeah, and then that was in 2017. So we moved here. It all happened really quickly because we had everything in place because we tried to buy that other farm. So money wise, we had pretty much everything that we knew we would be able to get and borrow and whatnot. So we came to see the farm in November of 2000. Oh, the years go by so fast. It's I'm trying to judge it in how old my kids are, but what year it was. So it must have been 2016. Yeah, the November of 2016, and then we moved here on the 10th of March 2017, and we started lambing on the 20th. So we bought all of the Allisons with the farmers that had it here before. We bought all their sheep off them. So they were lambing a wee bit later, but it was just so that we had the numbers straight away, like because we obviously had the numbers for our other farm, but the person who bought our old farm also bought some of those sheep just to keep it samey for them as well. Like the sheep were used to the area, and the sort of we thought it'd be easier. But the first year was hard, especially just lambing so quick after moving farm, moving animals, and moving house, and like we never ever want to move again. And George had one friend came to help him move that day, and because everyone's so busy, but I just remember his one friend came and helped him, and it was so nice because he needed the help, like he needed the help to do it, and but yeah, it all worked out.
Yeah, it's one thing to move the contents of a house, but then to think about like all the things in the shop and equipment, and if you are bringing livestock and all the any feed or any of those types of things. There's just so many logistics, especially when you're selling one and moving to another and taking inventory and all that kind of stuff. I'm sure it was all the extra added stress to it. And did you have children at that point as well?
No, so we got married in 2015, and but we were here a year before we had Scarlett. So she came on the second. She was the following February. She arrived, so it was all quite quick. Yeah, but you know what they say: new house, new baby. So they say, isn't it? And
Do it all at once. So when did you make the leap from doing the hair of people to switching to dogs, and who's easier?
oh, so it wasn't here. I was a beauty therapist, so I made my living doing facials, nails, waxing. That was my big things in my business. So I sold. I got made an offer. I got made an offer just too good to refuse, really, in terms of a few. Again, I've lost my years, but probably about, I think it was before Scarlett was born, because Scarlett was born in the February, and I bought the shop, bought the premises in the previous October, and that was always my intention. I'd rented a building for 10 years, and in terms of business wise, I wanted to own a premises to grow my business. I felt like you're putting out so much money in rent, and I thought I wanted that. a bit like my own thing, away from the farm, away from farming kind of connections. And so yeah, and then had Scarlett, and then Skylar, and then when Heath was born, I'd been the lady that's got the shop now. She made me an offer, I think, when I was pregnant with Heath, and I'd thought and thought and thought about it, and I'd said no. I discussed it with my staff that I had at the time, which I shouldn't have done. It's really, I should just have, but I was like that kind of a boss. Like, I just kind of discussed it with everyone and had their thoughts, because I thought, well, as well, if they wanted to work for this new person, and it's better to be open about it. And well, it didn't work out. And then she asked me again the following year, and you know what? I said what I wanted, and she said she would give it to me, and I said, well, let's do it. Because it was coming, and that was always the intention of sort of passing it on and still being the landlord, such. So I'm still getting an income from it, but yeah. And then I thought, I'm just gonna sort of raise my kids and try and live off of that. Which oh god, I forgot to put my phone on off. Sorry, I don't know if it buzzes. Does it buzz on your side?
No, I think we're okay.
No, oh, that's okay. And so yeah, I just decided to do that. But then I got carried away, and then I got bored, because once I gave up, I was like, what am I going to do? And then I had a poodle that I used to groom myself, and people were asking me, oh, do you do dog grooming? And I'm like, oh no, but maybe I should. Like, kind of go into that. So I went and trained in commercial dog grooming, and I do that from the house. So I've got a wee bit at the front of the house that I've kind of converted to doing that, and that just kind of works better for me than I did the beauty business for 20 years, and I loved it, and I loved, don't know if you get that, but I quite like a chat. Like, I quite so people have been through their whole lives with me. Like, they remember my first date with George. Some of my customers, I still do a wee day every other week with the ladies that I can't get rid of. So, but
You go to the salon, or do they come to the dog grooming area?
It's kind of like, one of my customers had a sort of building along from where I was, and she lets me use that for a couple of hours a week. And some of them do come to the house, and I've got a room at the back of the house that I can use. They go through the dog room, and then but they don't mind. I'm like, just hold your nose going through the dog room.
We're not using the same tools, I promise.
Yeah, we're not using it.
Gemma, as a certain sort of person, I have to say that I would be much more comfortable coming to a beautician who would do my dog and me, like, at the same time, or in it, like, I am very uncomfortable in spaces like that. So if I could bring my dog to the salon, like, I feel like that would be ideal. And also, if you decide to make a TV show about you guys buying a new farm and then, maybe rearranging the timeline a little, but like a show about you buying a farm and then opening the B&B with the 14 Romanians and the dog grooming, I would watch the hell out of that. Like, that is my ideal entertainment situation.
I know our life was like a show for ages, because I used to go to my beauty salon and I would tell everyone what was happening, and they were like, "Can we watch this show?" Like, you guys are insane. And it was like, yeah, but we were just young and just trying to make money, have fun, and we used yeah, our money from B&B as well, and to go travelling a wee bit. We did a couple. We actually went to, I think it was America, and we left the rom-roms in the house, like, to look after the house for 3 weeks. And they just had to change their own beds. So I was like, they knew where I washed all their clothes every week. So I knew what everyone's, 14 guys, right? And I knew whose socks were his. And I was like,
You could sort their underwear.
yeah. And it was anyway, I can't remember what I was talking about there.
That's good, though, because it seems like 3 kids worth of laundry probably wasn't that much after doing 14 guys worth. I mean, 14 laborers worth of laundry seems like it's probably a substantial pile of laundry.
Yeah, but I think if I'd had any kids at the time, I wouldn't have been able to do it because it was like at least they would leave me their bags of washing at the door. Like my kids just throw it like here, but they learn that from their daddy because he's just like.
That's true. I guess if you're not pulling half the socks out of the couch or from under the couch or from wherever, that probably helps things.
Yeah, there are always socks everywhere.
Socks, like I don't know what happens to the socks in our life. Like I used to blame like the dog. We had another wee dog, and he used to quite often run away with a sock, but he's gone now, and I'm like, we still have hardly any socks.
I don't know where they all go. So, as far as clientele, dogs are harder or easier than humans?
Oh, so I get asked this a lot actually because people obviously. And actually, it's funny because I actually groom some dogs of my beauty customers now because they know me so well, and they're like, oh, and it's funny how their dogs are so like them. Like, but I suppose people, one of my customers is very nervous. Her dog's very nervous, and I kind of because I know how to handle the customer, I know how to handle the dog. So it's kind of works out. But so what's easier? I don't know. I mean, in terms of like, I'm a businesswoman at the end of the day. So in terms of finances, my beauty business was much more lucrative. I could make much more money doing beauty therapy than I can doing dogs. But in terms of like being able to work from home with the dogs, like I could meet someone down the road at the bottom of the road with their dog and bring their dog up to the farm if they don't want to come up the farm road. I couldn't go down and get someone's head and take their head off and come up the road, you know what I mean? And say, I'll bring it back down when your eyebrows are done. And it's just a different the beauty customers that come to my house like they're now bringing their kids to me that's how long they've been coming to me. They don't mind if I haven't hoovered or like they've been through this, they know everything about me and I know everything about them, and they just feel comfortable with me doing, and I think that's why actually my beauty salon was such a success, because I don't look people up and down. I never judge anyone. I never ever assume that anyone's less or better off than anyone else. And because I remember I used to get some really uppity clients who thought they were everything, and they would come in and they would be like throwing their Gucci bag about, and it just did nothing for me. Like they weren't any better than Sally who came in with her Primark bag. Like, you know what I mean? Like it was, you just got to treat everyone the same. And I hate it when people say to me, oh, this one's so much cheaper and it'll be better. Never assume that people don't have the money to pay for things, really, because I think that's quite insulting. So yeah, just that's how I always treat people. And I think in the farming community, I was very lucky because I was quite sort of, I suppose, known in the area, in the farming community, farmers' wives and girlfriends who maybe would be worried about what they're going to talk about in a beauty salon. Were totally comfortable in my beauty salon, because even if they weren't having me as a therapist, I was to be floating about. But all my staff knew. So I mean, I remember I had a receptionist, and she used to write in this book like what a heifer was, and like what in different farming lingo. So that, because it was talked about so much, and people come in and go, oh, how's Gemma's husband, how's George, and how's the farm, and what's she up to now? And so Mary be like,
Don't forget lambing's happening. Yeah.
right, this time of year she's got back end calving going on. And because when we gave up and Mary left, and I got all the sort of I had to look through all the reception books and things, and I found that book, and I just thought, oh, that's quite. I brought a tear to my eye that she did that so that she could get involved more, and I do miss that. I miss the girls a bit from my work, but handling staff is just a different ball game. And we don't have any staff in the farm like either, because George just doesn't want that. We have like lambing staff, lambing students and stuff like that, but handling like full-time staff, there's so much in this country, everything's in their favour. Like, there's just no, can't put my finger on it. It's just hard, and yeah.
Sure, the combination of staff and clients too, right? Because you're managing both, two different groups of people who have different needs, and then trying to line up all those, the spots, the scheduling, all the personalities. There's so many elements to it.
I used to work really hard actually at trying to, like, if I knew somebody, I had a couple of girls, one girl in particular who I still have helped her just recently get up off her ground in her business again, but she was very trendy and very, like, and she didn't really like to have the farming clients, so she couldn't really get that sort of chat. So I just made sure she didn't, and just had the cool trendy young girls that kind of, like, she knew what to talk about.
Who she could connect with, yeah.
Yeah, because, like, if they don't have a mortgage and they didn't have kids or whatever, then I was kind of like, oh,
Yeah, I don't know what we're going to talk about.
I don't know. I still found something to talk about, but I kind of thought about my staff very much in that way. I wanted to make them feel comfortable, which is probably why they did. No one really left, apart from when they moved area or whatever. But when I got them, I wanted to be the best boss I could, and I think I was. I don't know. I was always told I was. Anyways.
Gemma, I know that you have a YouTube channel, and as a farm dog owner who struggles with farm dog grooming, because we have a Australian Shepherd with a lot of hair, I really feel like the YouTube trend that should be happening is like a paid channel where you could get tips about grooming your farm dog, because I feel so bad taking her to the groomer, because I mean, like, right now, I guess she's not right here, but she's just covered in burrs and like little prickly things. And, like, she needs the trim around her butt, but I don't know how to do it. And she's such a mess that I feel bad taking her in, and I'm going to have to. But anyway, how do you decide what to turn into content for your, like, what makes the cut? Or is it just everything and viewers be damned?
Oh, I was listening to another one of your podcasts with another a YouTuber, and he was talking about how, like, he would create content. We don't create content, like, we're just sort of whatever happens happens. It's like, but George did say the other day. He said maybe you should just go and groom your dog and put that on. Like, I think I was annoying him, and he was like, people might want to see you groom the poodle. Go and groom the poodle and put it on. And I was like, no one's going to want to see me grooming a poodle. Like,
I know. I will say though, so I took Bailey in, and I mean, she's like a 40-pound, 50-pound dog. She's not that big. So like 20 kilos. And she's got 8 inches of fur that just goes straight out everywhere. And I took her into the groomer, and I mean, I've had to muzzle her to trim around her butt before, because she's gotten better, but she would snap so bad. And I was like, don't feel bad if you have to muzzle her. Maybe just slip her some Valium, whatever. Like, we're not being real precious about this. I don't care how she looks. I just want the burrs off her and that. And I went to pick her up, and they were like, oh no, she was a perfect angel. She fell asleep on the table. And I was like, you do know which dog is mine, right? Like, was it somebody else's dog that was so good? Because I don't, it's like kids. They behave better for other people. But
yeah. Oh no, people's dog, like that wee dog this morning, it was like shaking, coming. She always like shakes and coming. And as soon as Pam was away, she's like, oh, do you know what I mean? Like, my best friend. So they're like kids, like, yeah, I'll drop Heath off at nursery, and he's like, mommy. And then as soon as I try to get in the car, he's like playing, doesn't care. Kids and dogs, same sort of idea.
So that's a good segue into one of our standard questions, is asking our guests to think about when they first became parents. And what was that like for you? I mean, you already had the farm, right? And the business.
Yep. Yeah, I had so much going on. When I had Scarlett, it was like, I think, and oh, do you know, funny enough, I'd actually opened a second salon when I had Scarlett, and I forgot about that one. So I had 2 salons, and I remember I was overdue by 2 weeks with Scarlett. And by that point, you know, I was losing the will to live. I was like, I need to and I actually stopped working the day before I was due. And then when I didn't, when she wasn't, when I didn't when nothing was happening, I thought, sod it, I'm just gonna go back to work. So I went back and worked in the new salon. And I think I remember I was doing somebody's nails. She's like, oh, when's your baby due? I was like, oh, last week, but it's not it's not here yet. And she's not coming out, and I'm trying everything. And they were like, oh my God. And I was like, yeah. So because I couldn't just sit and do nothing, like I felt but my anxiety was really bad. Looking back, I was really anxious before I had her. I think just the fact that it was getting, George and I were both, when we had Scarlett, we weren't, when they said she was, you know, coming in February, it was all a bit like, God, really? We couldn't work out how it all sort of, you know, we know how babies are made, but do you know what I mean? It's kind of like, we're just like, it wasn't a complete mystery, but we're like, oh, just, this wasn't completely, was planned, but not in a way. But anyway, so George and I were both I think about 4 or 5 weeks early when we were born. So we hoped that our first child would be 4 or 5 weeks early too. To give us a head start, you know, for lambing and all that kind of stuff. But no, she was born 5 weeks before lambing kicked off, and I ended up with an emergency section. I went in 10 days overdue, and I got induced, which, if I could go back now, I should have researched this more, and I would have never got induced, because it just made that was the reason for my emergency section. My body just wasn't, and then there was just so much happening. When I was in labour, George had to go home and calve a heifer, like a backwards heifer, and the midwives were loving all this chat. You know what I mean? Like, they were like, "Oh, this is exciting," and I'm like, "No, it's not." And then I went in. So I went in the morning to get induced with Scarlett, and then they said, "Oh, nothing's going to happen till like tomorrow." And I was like, George's like, all right, so can I go home and get on with the sheep and that and stuff? And I'm like, yeah, just, you know, it'll be fine, go. But once the labour started coming really, really fast, and I made a best friend in the bed across from me because she's all I had. Then I had to, like, I kept going to the toilet, and I was like, oh my God, I feel like I'm going to, like, this is it. And then I think after about the 5th time I went to the toilet, the Heather, who she is called, said, "Are you okay?" I said, "Can you come in and see my baby's coming out of me?" Because I can't see. And, you know, being from a beauty environment, seeing someone's vagina didn't bother me, because obviously I was like doing that all the time. But the look on her face when I asked her to leave, she was like, "Oh my God."
Normal for her.
That it wasn't normal for her.
Yeah. Between cows and sheep and waxing, you're up in there all the time.
Yeah. I mean, it was fine. I was like, just look up my dress, look up and see if it's coming. And then we've been friends ever since, so that's quite nice. And yeah, so then I emergency section, and then I just remember, like, even when I was like the anxiety and the postnatal, I could feel it coming on before I had Scarlett, and I knew I'd had a sort of history of anxiety, and sort of always managed it with a bit of medication and sort of self-care. And I knew when I was going to beat my worst, like always a week before my period, you know, I could I could kill somebody, and then the week after, you know, I could marry them. It's like totally different. So I always kind of knew my hormones played a big part in my anxiety. But yeah, unfortunately, like when I had Scarlett, I just went into this sort of like deep depression of I couldn't breastfeed. Well, I was trying to breastfeed, and I found that so difficult. And being from farming, in my head, if I couldn't feed my own baby, I was going to go to the market. Do you know what I mean? Like, not in, I wasn't going to end up in the market, but I remember telling the midwife this. See, when I had my cesarean, if I was a cow, I'd be sent down the road. Like, I remember those words coming out my mouth, and she was looking at me like, "You're in an okay place. Don't worry. We'll look after you." Because
we're gonna keep you around.
We're gonna keep. And I remember actually this. I think it was day 2. I was in hospital for about 4 days with Scarlett, which is unheard of here because usually they pap you out after 24 hours, even with a C-section. And I remember coming out in the middle of the night, and just because I had to sort of get away from her, she was doing a lot of, what babies do, they cry, and I was trying to feed her for 2 hours on my tit, and she was just not like doing it. So I walked out, and all the midwives were talking about me because I was like, I don't know. What did they call me? They did call me a drama queen. I heard that. And I thought, oh, bitch. You know what I mean? Like, and then one midwife said to me, which was actually quite good advice. She said, man up or give up. And I was like, oh, how dare you talk to me like that? I'm gonna, man up. But yeah, I found it really difficult, and just because I wanted to feed my baby, I wanted to be like my mum breastfed all of us. That was probably the biggest challenge, the breastfeeding, and I probably shouldn't have. And it haunts me for for a long time. But and I think if I didn't have my work, I went back to work after having Scarlett at 5 weeks, probably 4 or 5 weeks. I went back. But I used that as an excuse to get away from her. Like, I was able to use it, like, I think the girl that I put in charge, phoned and said she wasn't coping, which, sort of, in hindsight, I would have been like, get on with it. You know what I mean? Just, I'm paying you a lot of money. It's hard. Suck it up. Get on with it. But instead I was like, oh, it's okay. I'll be there. Get in the car.
I'm on the way. Yeah.
I'm on my way because someone needed me. Someone needed me, not something. I don't know. I just felt like you're just so with baby and with George as well. Like farmers they're not good at looking after themselves. I don't know about your husbands, but George is not good at looking after himself. And I think he just felt probably a bit lost as well, that he couldn't help me because I was wanting to feed the baby and all this. And I mean, I do remember him taking her out in the car seat in the tractor and stuff and trying to get her to like stop crying, and just he tried, but it's hard for men because when they don't have a milky boobs, they just can't help really. But so yeah, that was the hardest part of having Scarlett, just not being able to sort of feeling a failure. And I remember when the health visitor was coming out, and it's so funny because the health visitor, who's like, do you have health visitors? Like, is that what you call them? Like midwives, sort of after the birth, or they come out to the house and all that?
No.
So we have like health visitors, and they come out like every couple of days to check you're okay. And my health visitor was one of my beauty customers. Like, because when she drove in, she was like, "Oh my God, I didn't realise it was you. Do you want me to get someone else?" And I was like, "It's totally fine because I'll cry to anyone." Like,
Yeah, I'll tell you how I am. Yeah.
yeah, I'm not going to hide anything here. And it was good to have. But I remember saying, bawling to her, saying, "I'm a failure. I can't feed my baby," and And then I got mastitis, and then my only recall of knowledge of mastitis is in sheep. You know what I mean? So I'm like comparing myself to a yow who's thinking I'm going to get my boob cut off, and I can remember all these things in my head, totally panicking. And I was really ill with that. And then finally I gave up at that. And I remember I went into the doctors and I was like, I just can't do it. I'm going to have to give up. And she went, "It's okay. They make stuff to feed your baby." And I was like, yeah, okay. Like having somebody telling you that's okay, like to give your baby formula is okay. But I kind of had to hear it from a professional person. Like they had to do it. And then but yeah, over the years I struggled with Scarlett just over lambing time and things. Oh, I can hear some crying at the door right now. It's probably the oldest one, probably Scarlett crying at the door because she's like the most attached. I probably breastfed her the longest, so she's probably the most attached.
Let that bottle now.
Yeah, she's 7, so there's a bottle in her.
So with the perspective of how things went the first time, did you approach your second and third pregnancy and postpartum periods differently?
Yeah, well, on my second pregnancy, it was COVID. So everything was kind of like, I think we were shut down, but I was pregnant with Skylar and it was kind of COVID. And because of what had happened with Scarlett, they were very much like, and I was very open about it. And I think just being like surrounded with my beauty salon with all these women, and I was able to tell everyone about it. And if I had a new mum in, I was like, oh, don't think this is all gonna be wonderful. It's like, it's hard. And because people sell it to you as such an easy, and some people it is, it's wonderful. They can just, sit and feed their baby and not need to do anything and really enjoy it. And but for people who are so active and it kind of takes something away from you a wee bit, and it's hard to sort of regain that. And but for Skylar, I researched it so much more, and I phoned the doctors and everyone I was pregnant with Skylar, and I said I can feel myself going the same way. I'm being like a bitch to my husband. I'm really I'm really wanting to hit him over the head with a shovel. Like, it's kind of that kind of feeling, but not because of anything he's done, just because I can feel the hormones. Just, I don't know, if he asks for something, I'm like, oh, get it yourself, you lazy arse. Like, so, but yeah, so I got put straight on to, and the woman, actually, the psychologist, she phoned me every week, and she was really good, and she got me to research it a lot, which no one'd ever done before. And she gave me a lot of websites to go on. And then I really realised that it wasn't depression that I'd been suffering with for all this. It was anxiety. It was what could happen and what was going to happen and all that kind of thing, rather than, it's totally different. Postnatal depression, you just think of somebody sitting there being sad. Oh, you know what I mean? Like, sad about life, and I had nothing to be sad about. I had this healthy baby, this a great life. So it's like, what have I got to be sad about? But it is the chemical imbalance in your brain, and it's but it was anxiety. And then I was treated differently when I realised it was what I thought was going to happen, and it was anxiety. And with Skylar it was much easier. Still hard, but because in juggling, Skylar was born on the 23rd of December, so juggling during COVID. Well, I tell you, by the time I had Heath, who's my third one, it was much easier, because you just know what you're doing. You know what sort of help you're going to need. I had to have cesarean sections in the end. Like, Scarlett was an emergency. I hummed and hawed about having a Skylar naturally or via section. So, but they kind of pushed me towards having a section for Skylar, and so I did. And then with the third one, it was kind of that's and they were saying that you've kind of got to have a section now. You can't, because they were quite close together as well. I didn't have an option, but just recovering from surgery as well. I think it took me till about the third one to realise that it was quite a serious operation I was having. I remember even with Skylar, I got infected. My wound got infected with Skylar because I was out carting in logs, 2 days after I was home. Or she was born you're born on the 23rd of December, Skylar, aren't you? Christmas baby. And we don't know how that happened, because we don't know how we got near each other at lambing time. So but again, and yeah, so it was just. But yeah, Heath was the easiest, and plus I did not even try and breastfeed Heath at all. I just put him straight onto the bottle, and that made it just much easier, being able to sort of hand him to people. And when I did need a rest, or just I didn't have to be always there. So yeah, it's different things of the different children.
Yeah, and knowing what to expect is such a huge part of it, right? Because as much as we talk to other parents about what it's going to be like, everyone's experience is different, and you really can't explain it to someone what their experience will be.
Oh, I know, because everybody, like, I was probably, I knew a lot of people with babies, but they just everyone just seemed to get on with it so well, and I just didn't. That I just thought there must be something wrong with me, or I'm gonna have to get them out of here because now they're jumping in the bed. Oh, yeah. No, you have to leave now. These legs are talking to me from another country. It's not fair.
I won't leave.
No.
I won't talk.
I'll have to go. I'll have to go to another room.
I won't talk. We won't talk. We promise.
Right, your sweeties are in for the rest of the night then if you don't go, okay?
We won't talk.
Okay.
Okay then, sweeties.
You get sweeties if you go, but if you stay in here, there'll be no sweeties.
We won't even talk.
No sweeties if you stay in here. He's doing a proof test. Oh, I've got one in the toilet as well now shouting. It's okay, I've still got the quiet one and the quiet one. The middle one's, well, I was going to say the middle one is quite quiet. The middle one's usually the wildest, but she's still here staring me out over there in the corner.
Right. We'll do the parenting questions now. So obviously things have changed a lot over the years with the farm and businesses and adding kids. So what different configurations of childcare and support have you had over the years that have made it possible to do all of those things?
So Georgie's mum, she lives down the road from us now. So they lived in a cottage on our old farm. And then when we bought this farm, there was a cottage at the end of the road who the mum of the farmer lived in. And so we knew that we had a preemption on the house. So when it came up for sale, if we were able to buy it, we could buy it. And that's where George's mum and dad live now. So they're quite handy for childcare. They didn't move there for this when Scarlett was, which is probably why it was the hardest for Scarlett, because I didn't have, and it was the beast from the east. I don't know, massive big storm the year I had Scarlett, and nobody could get anywhere. I was lucky I didn't have her a few days later because I wouldn't have been able to get like home from the hospital. So it would it was difficult.
Gemma, did you say she was born in 2018? Is that right?
Scarlett is 2018, yeah.
Our son was born in April of 2018, and we got a freak blizzard the day after he was born. So yeah, it must have just been a year for it.
I know. So it was but the lady who lived in the cottage, actually, she still lived in there. Babs still lived in there, and she was my saviour because I could walk to her house, and I pushing the pram through the snow, like just to see somebody else. Because obviously when it was snowing and stuff, so George, was the pressure on him to feed animals outside when it was snowing, and then he couldn't help me at all because he had to keep everything alive. So I just needed to, and if it wasn't for her just being down there, I remember going down there and she'd make me soup and take up the road, and just because my mum and George's mum couldn't get in to help or see me or anything. So so childcare wise, and then now Heath is finally 3, and because having 3, like a lot of people just have 2 children, and but in my head I was really lucky. I had it in my head I always wanted 3, and I was blessed that I had 3 healthy children, and I got a mixture, 2 girls and a boy, and so Heath's 3 now, and he just goes into full-time nursery. So childcare is much easier. I've got a bit more, I say I've got more time, but like he's been in nursery 2 weeks full time, and I've just filled it with work and and doing stuff, and even yesterday I was out putting slates in they're just doing me jobs that you don't get round to doing. Skylar, you can't swing in the door, darling. You either go out or in. You not want any sweeties or a tenner? One of the 2?
I'm tenner 8 now.
What, a tenner? Right, go and get one. Nanny will give you one. That's what nannies are for. There we go. Funnily enough, I see my beauty room at the back of the house. I have a lock on it, but I don't have the internet in it, so I can't use in there with the lock on the door because I don't have the internet. So I knew that'd be a problem, but there's no lot of times that like they're and if I did it at night when they'd if I couldn't get in, if George wasn't in, then they'd all be sitting here. And it is difficult. Like I could feel myself sort of like forgetting what I was saying and stuff when they were in there, because as a mum you're kind of watching what they're doing as well, and they're all they're not there jumping in the bed, but it's totally fine. They fell off the bed, they're all right.
Well, I think that's, Gemma, a great example of why it's so important to have childcare and to have quality childcare, because like you were saying, even if it's just a few hours at a time that they're all gone, that ability to actually do the thing with like 90% of your brain instead of the like 40% of your brain that you ever get when they're home. I mean, I never get like 100% of my brain, but it drops by easily 50% if my kids are in the vicinity, because there's always just something that they need or they're asking for, or you're listening, because there's like the background yelling, and then there's the like, there's an actual problem that I need to attend to yelling, of like,
Yeah, it's you're constantly like because George will say I'm such a deep sleeper, like I could sleep through him, like having a full conversation with me. But see if one of them squeaks in their sleep, I'm like, whoa, like I've got this kind of like thing in my head that just goes, oh, there's a cry, because I think if I don't go fast, then they're going to cry louder and wake everyone up. So it's like, boom.
it's seriously like the first moment that I really realized how much having a baby had changed things was in the hospital with our daughter. The first night they took her to the nursery, which a lot of hospitals don't do anymore, and they were like, if she cries, we'll bring her back. And I woke up from a dead sleep hearing her crying from the nursery, like, 3 doors down the hall. I heard her. And I was like, oh, so that's how it's going to be, because I've always been a, like literally slept through tornadoes kind of person. And now I'm like, oh, a fly farted somewhere on the other side of the house. Bam, awake. And
Oh, you had that connection straight away.
it's nuts.
It took me a while.
So what is your favorite thing about raising your kids on the farm?
I think just being able to just give them that space, like it's quite. It's not. We don't appreciate it. I don't know about you guys, like when you're young kids, but until I sort of like if I'm driving through areas when I see like there's loads of flats and things, you forget kind of how lucky we are to live where we are with all that open space. And my kids definitely take it for granted. Like they don't know anything different. So and when I remember like being an outside child, just having that freedom. And I think they learn a lot, like from being outside and just um being their care, having animals as well, being able to have animals from such a young age, like the care of their touch, and like they're all so different. I mean, I always compare Scarlett and Skylar. Like when pet lambs are there, Scarlett will go round and go, up you get, guys, come on. And Skylar will go in and go, get up, get up, get up. Like they're just totally like the way they respond to things is different. But it's yeah, and just having that freedom, yeah. And for us as well, if we've got jobs to do, they can generally it is difficult because, like you say, like they take away your attention, so you can't. When I'm out helping George with sheep and the kids are out, I fully can't concentrate on the sheep. Like there's just and he doesn't get that because he can sort of like that's his job for what he's doing. Whereas I've always got one eye on like are they going to drive off in that quad or like are they going to like but so that I find that hard. I find it much easier now that I've got a bit more time. I can help George and the kids aren't there. We are working better together because before, and plus now they're now at the age where Scarlett's at the age now where she can stay in the house and watch TV, and we know she's not going to kill herself, whereas in the two wee ones, if I'm just out, if he's bringing a cow in or something and I've got to stand outside, I'll say to them, I'm going out to get a cow in. Do you want to come out? If you do come out, you've got to stay there and stand there. And, and then they generally go, oh, no, we'll be okay. A couple of minutes. And it is generally 5 minutes. So, but I think, I don't know if people in the town would do that. You know what I mean? Would ever leave their children? Is it legal? Yeah, I can't. I'm only at the garden.
I mean, I guess maybe if you're in your own yard, but I don't imagine you'd be like, I'm just going to run to the shop, like I'll be 5 minutes. Probably not, right?
Yeah. But I suppose some people could probably run to the shop quicker than what I'm out chasing the cow.
You never know how long the cow's going to take. There's milk across there.
I know. So, But generally, like, if I've been too long, I kind of know that the door's going to open and there's someone's going to shout, "Mom, like, where are you?" or whatever. And then I know as soon as the door opens that the dogs get out, and then I'm like, "Oh God!" So it's like,
Yeah, you've got a time limit on before they start to fight with each other, and you need to know about it.
yeah. And I think for the kids, I just think they generally learn to be like quite independent, quite young. They learn, even though there's not a lot of traffic on like the farm, they learn about the safety of it very quickly. Like they know when they hear beeps, someone's coming backwards, and you do worry about it all the time, obviously, but if they've got a friend over who isn't from any sort of farming environment, you can see the difference in like how they know so much about safety and knowing what to go in with it. They know not to go in, they know not to even walk by a kind of cow that just calved or anything like that, you know what I mean? Like, or at lambing time, I think Scarlet will okay now, but I think Skylar and Heath would probably still get a buff, like from a yow if it was to go for them. So yeah, but they harden up. It makes them hard as well. Was that the answer to that question? I can't even remember what that question kind of yeah.
What are some of your biggest parenting struggles these days?
Oh, the struggles are recently it's getting them all outside. See, if you know you're going to be outside in a farming term, if you know you've got a job to do and you need to have them all outside, it's keeping them all outside without like them being like, "Oh, we're bored. Can we go in?" When it's like, "No, I'm going to be out for too long." You just can't go in, like you need to come out. And I suppose that's the joy of having like lots of iPads and phones and stuff like that. You can give them an iPad and they will sort of but I really admire some people who can just who find I don't know who find thing how to involve their kids. But sometimes it's so the things you're doing you're you're a bit nervous of doing them anyway, and so that'll rub off on your children and you don't want them to get hurt or get in the way. Or so I find that from a farming point of view, that's my biggest struggle, is getting them all to be out for a length of time now, when there's jobs to do that they don't want to do, different if it's a job they want to do.
Yes, yeah. If they're interested, then that's a whole different ballgame.
Lambing times a hit and miss. If you get the weather's nice, and when they were younger, I could put like a sand pit in that up at the lambing shed and put the wee tractors and stuff, and or even the last few years, I can put them in like the big bin of feed, and they'll just play in that. But even that itself's probably dangerous. But it's but now they're getting harder to amuse. But hopefully they'll get wee job. They're now at a stage where they could maybe feed sheep and stuff next year. Like a more responsibility. So
Yeah, focus their efforts on something, right? Yeah, it's that balance between when they're eager but have no skill to when they're suddenly useful but not so eager anymore. So there's a transition point there. Um, what is some parenting advice that you've learned along the way or someone shared with you that you would want to share with another farming parent?
I think just try not to compare yourself to everyone else, and just try and just survive, and just and really just think of it as every day as it comes, and don't try and be like the person you've seen on Instagram like yesterday, who's got all their 20 kids and they're away out and they're doing then they're all walking in a line with their hair done. Like it's just that is just not real life. And I don't know, it might be real life for somebody. Like it's not really for me. I mean, I used to be the person who would have their hair and makeup done and everything, and I'd be, looking perfect and whatnot. Whereas now I'm lucky I put moisturiser on, and maybe that's why I moved to the dogs, because they don't really, they don't judge you. It's all like your face. But it's so yeah, just try not to think about what other people think, and which is so hard because we're a nation of now with social media and everything that we kind of want people to think. You know what I mean? Like if you post things, you're wanting a reaction to it. So whether it's good or bad, and you don't generally. I try and do post the bad stuff, especially with the YouTube, like George is quite good at saying, "Oh, don't post that." I just like, I'm like, what? We're posting that's like what people want to see. Like this is hard. He's getting better at it, like letting me sort of just edit things a wee bit differently.
Yeah, showing the reality versus just the best moments, right?
Yeah, because when you're doing something like that, what's the point in doing it? I mean, I only started sort of put myself out there in that online when I started doing the nursery asked me to make some videos for them because I took a lamb into nursery a few years ago because one of the ladies said it's totally fine, bring the lamb in, and I was like, okay, that's fine. I did think it was a wee bit like I don't know nowadays if you can do that, but anyway, took it in. But they said, oh, you're not allowed past the gate. And I was like, oh, like, well, I've got to stand in this. So all of the kids in the nursery came out and wanted to see this lamb, but none of them could touch it or it couldn't go into the it couldn't go past the gate of the nursery. And I was like, oh, and then so the next year the nursery manager asked me if I could make some videos with the for kids that with the farming and the lambing and all that kind of thing and the lambs and with the kids, and then that's how I started making videos in the first place, and then I sort of thought, oh, I quite like this, and it's but then you got to question yourself out. You're putting yourself out there for people to judge you on like a social YouTube as a sort of social media platform still. So it's yeah. So and it's hard for people not to judge you. I imagine people will watch it and have opinions, same as we watch a lot of things and have opinions on things. But that's it. If it helps a few people on their farming journey, we haven't really like. I was listening to your podcast with Sally Crow, who was on like this farming life, and we have applied for this farming life, but we haven't got on it. We just applied once, and then because George is like, oh, I don't know if I want someone like following me around, like like, and I'm like, yeah. I said, well, I think George is made for TV. Like, I think he's completely. He is. He's a he's a natural on it, and he's so passionate about farming. Like he could sell it to anyone, like the stock and how much he does, and I think it's good that he can share things, but I probably didn't sell to the producers like how we sort of got here. Maybe if I'd sold that we put an advert in the Scottish Farmer and we got our farm privately, if I'd spun the story, but we weren't really wanting to. We probably just sounded a bit boring. But we probably are a bit boring. But it's just we're probably just like every other person, just every other people farming in this country. But it's just really it's quite a private thing. You don't really know what goes on in a lot of farms, and even George, he says that he wished he'd went somewhere and done like a lambing somewhere else to see. Compare it to his own sort of because he doesn't have anything to compare it to. He's only ever lambed at home, and he regularly when we get students in, he's like, oh, do you? He's asking them like how such and such how does it compare to other farms, and because he wants to know. And I just think, well, that's what YouTube and everything's all about. Being able to sort of compare yourself to others in your profession, hopefully not in a good or bad way, but I've watched lots of YouTube videos and picked up great things for the dog grooming as well. Like I've watched hours of poodle grooming, poodle showing grooming and everything, and learnt so much from it. So I think that's the avenue I went down rather than I don't know if TikTok's big in where you are, is it? Is TikTok big out there?
I don't think so, no. Is it a specific is it a show or a
No, it's like an app. It's an app, so it's like TikTok and
TikTok,
and
Arlene. Get our Scottish translator in here.
Oh, so you'll have to cut TikTok, yeah, and it's so a lot of people like when they're sort of starting their media journey, they would start on that, but I just don't have that. I'm more of a sort of storyteller than a just a quick minute sort of videos. I like to tell a story through sort of what's happening in my life.
We've talked a lot on, just talking to different people from farming, communities around the world. Everyone is doing it differently but the same at the same time, right? So I do think that social media in whatever form it takes is a really interesting way of gaining insight. And even if it's something that wouldn't work on your farm, at least you've learned that what works for someone else, right? And there might be reasons in terms of either the geography or the climate or the type of animal that you're raising, where it's like, oh, well, that I don't think that would work for me, or I know it wouldn't work, but that doesn't mean that someone else is doing it wrong. It just means that we're all doing the best we can in the conditions that we have, right? So
Yeah, and I used to watch this guy with bison, on YouTube, and I loved watching him, but I was never ever gonna get a bison to try and but I just, I quite enjoyed it. Used to always Skylar had a big obsession with the sheep game for a while, and she wanted to watch that, like, every day, notoriously, like, all the episodes of, and probably made him a fortune because she just had it on repeat all day. And I used to wonder because I was like, we're outside lambing right now, and she wants to come inside and watch lambing on the TV. Like, what's wrong with her? And then the bison thing used to always come on after it, and I would be like, "Oh, the bison guy's back on." And I learned quite a bit just from watching him, and I'm thinking, why am I even? But it was just interesting, and that's what things online, they take your interest, and you just want to carry them on, don't you? And you never know, we might get a bison here one day. I'll know how to do it anyway.
We ask all of our guests, if you were going to dominate a category at the county fair, what would it be? And categories can be real or made up to ensure that you win.
Oh, I hear this one on your podcast a lot, and I'm always like, oh, what would I see? I'd like to think like I was the best at, like, dog grooming and stuff like that. If it was a dog show, I would obviously want to do it, but that's a bit like bigging myself up, isn't it? So I'd probably I would definitely win a crying competition. Like, I'm an emotional wreck, really, and I can cry like at a drop of a hat, or I could cry. See if I walked past someone's wedding, I'd burst into tears for them. You know what I mean? Like, it's just so if there was a competition and they said start crying, I could get tears streaming down my face for no reason.
that is impressive. So, any of those, sloppy commercials or the right song hits, and yeah, the tears are.
Oh my god, yeah, like, the songs are the worst because I'll be driving along and then I'll be like, oh, and I remember like songs. I remember my first pony got put down, and I remember Beyonce's Halo was on, and see, whenever I hear that song, I am howling like a banshee, and the kids are like, "Mummy, are you okay? Are you okay, Mummy?" And I'm like, "It's Halo, and it's a pony died." No, it was but yeah, I do, but yeah, I'm an emotional. So I had to think that, yeah, if I'm not good at many things, but crying, I'm pretty good at.
Well, that is the first. You're a first for the show, so yeah, we'll send you a ribbon for that one.
Well, I had another one, but I thought, well, it was either swearing or crying, so it was either one of the
I love it.
two.
So we'll go ahead and move into our cussing and discussing segment. If you're a listener and want to submit yours, you can go to speakpipe.com/barnyard language and leave us a voice memo, or send us an email at barnyardlanguage@gmail.com, and we will read it out for you in whatever accent we choose. Katie, what are you cussing or discussing this week?
So, the girl child, who is closing in on 9, has grown,
Again.
I don't know, 6 inches in the last, like, month. I don't understand it. She's tremendously tall, but she's built like I am, so it is all from her hips up, which means that now I've had to buy her new pants because she's grown some, widthwise as well. But all of her pants are like 4 inches too long, and they're not jeans or like leggings that you can just fold up. They're all wearing like yoga pants or flare leggings or whatever now. So they're soft, stretchy fabric, and they're big at the bottom. And so now I'm trying to figure out how to hem them. And I'm finding resources online, but these are all for like professional adult women who are hemming their yoga pants. And I'm like, I'm hemming yoga pants for a child who may grow into them or may just outgrow the waist before she outgrows the legs again. And
Rip a hole in the knee, and then it might get turned into shorts for next year.
yeah, and it's like 8 pairs of them because it's everything she owns, and I just want there to be some option that doesn't, because even if I get joggers or something with a cuff at the bottom, A, she doesn't like them, and B, they're still stupidly long. Like, they just fold over. Sitting down, she's still the tallest one in the world, basically, but standing up, I mean, honestly, because of the kids in her school, she's still a head and a half taller than everybody. But, it's just these pants. I just cannot. And I just know that she's going to outgrow the waist of them before I figure out how to shorten the legs of them. Gemma, what do you have to cuss and discuss?
Oh, I'm probably quite sad about the price and the size of chocolate these days. I was thinking that the other day.
Right. That is sad. Yes.
I went to buy, and do you know what they're doing now? I don't know if you still get them abroad, but see, you used to get Quality Street and Rosie's tins of chocolates for like Christmas time. You don't get them anymore. They just come in a cardboard box.
Still got tins of Quality Street last year, but they have definitely gotten smaller. That little octagon or hexagon container, whatever it is, it got shorter and smaller around too.
I think am I cussing this? I think I'm cussing the size of chocolate. Well, but probably going to a discussion for me.
Shrinkflation of chocolate is a real issue that we need to consider.
And even like I stock up the chocolate cupboard or chocolate drawer like about 3 times a week, and because everything's getting smaller, everything's just getting eaten more. Because I think like Heath had about 4 of these wee teddy bear things the other day, and they used to be like double the size. And I bought them the other day, and I think he ate 4. And then this morning he's like, "Oh, what a teddy bear!" And I'm like, "Well, you've eaten them all." And he's like, "Oh," and I'm like, "Oh, they used to be so much bigger." Or and like you used to get wee chocolate things that were 10 pence, and they were called Freddos. And I saw in the shops the other day they were 60p for like the same wee thing. So I think it's just ridiculous.
I will say though, Gemma, my 7-year-old son has started calling, like, if you break a Hershey's bar, and it breaks into little rectangles, he calls that a snap now. So he'll come up and say, "Can I have just one snap of your chocolate?" And I'm like, "Well, since you're so effing cute, yes." If he said like a bite or a piece, like that's just normal level cute, but something about him calling it a snap just does me in.
Oh, that's good. That's very clever of him, a snap rather than mine would still be like, give me a bite.
Well, I'm pretty sure he's figured out that calling it a snap means that I'm more likely to say yes. So, I'm sure that's also part of it. Yes, everybody's getting trained. Arlene, what do you have to cuss and discuss today?
Well, I wasn't sure, but I'm going to go with shrinkflation too, because in my family, I've got 3 growing boys. My daughter's not living in the house at the moment. She's away at school, but 2 teens and a tween. And the cereal boxes are not the same size they used to be. And thankfully, we are in a dairy farm, and don't tell anyone, but we do drink raw milk because it's right outside our door. So we drink our own milk, but the cereal is getting ridiculous because the family size box no longer really feeds a family for very long. And I've got one in the middle who's big on all things protein. So I'm buying him the protein cereal, and those boxes are even smaller than all the other boxes, even though they might be the same size. So yeah, cereal is ridiculous. And even though we drink our own milk, it's the going back out to the barn because every time I open the fridge, it's like, oh, apparently we're out again.
Yeah. At least you have that option. You can just nip up to the bar and get some.
They're also old enough where I can just hand them the big Rubbermaid bucket that we use and say, "You go out and fill it." Unless the milk truck is already gone, and then you have to eat something else for breakfast because cereal's out. If there's no milk, it's not happening.
I know everything's getting smaller though. I think when I go to the shops and like everything's just so expensive. Expensive and smaller. Like it's just I'm needing to up my prices, I think, for things. My dog keep on top of it.
So we want to thank you so much for joining us today, and thank you to the kids for mostly giving you time to hang out with us.
Oh well, thank you for having me, and it's been a really nice experience. For
Yeah, it's been fun. So remind us and our listeners where they can find you online.
Well, mostly on Instagram, on Hodge Farm Life 5, and our main thing is YouTube, again, Hodge Farm Life 5, and it's just a general farming banter in Scotland. What you see is what you get, nothing really too edited, quite raw, and hopefully educational. So some.
Yes. Thank you. It was great to have this conversation today.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you for joining us on Barnyard Language. If you enjoy the show, please support us on Patreon with a donation.
Big thanks go out to our show editor, Krista Paffrath at the Rural Podcast Network.
Please rate and review the podcast wherever you listen and follow the show so you never miss an episode.
If you want to connect with other farming families, join the private Barnyard Language Facebook group.
We are always in search of future guests for the podcast. If you or someone you know would like to chat with us, get in touch.